Okay, so it's been getting a little cold here lately, despite it being Florida. So let's say that this winter break, you're like, all right, I want to go somewhere sunnier and warmer, so you hop on a plane to Brazil. And during your flight, a bird or something runs into your engine, and your plane goes down. And you wake up all disoriented and confused, and you wake up in a pile of debris and metal, and you find yourself, and you've crashed right in the middle of the Amazon rainforest. And you're thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? I'm the only survivor, and I don't know what to do about food, or water, or shelter, or I have all these injuries. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen to me, and how am I going to survive this? Okay, well, we're going to tell you. A lot of survivors that survive these situations don't ever think that they're going to be in this situation. So if you should ever find yourself in a situation where you have to survive, especially the Amazon rainforest, this is how you do it. This is how you survive the Amazon rainforest. Okay, what you should know about surviving the Amazon rainforest is your basic survival, dangerous animals and plants, considering your health, what you should do about your health in the rainforest, the treacherous weather, climate, and landforms, and also how you're going to go about escaping. So basic survival focuses on attitude, shelter, water, fire, and then food. What you should know first is when you get out of your accident, you should focus. Your attitude should remain calm and exactly what you have to do. Don't panic. You should search the wreckage for anything that might help you survive. That means lighters, plastic bags, containers especially, so you can hold things, food, water. And the Amazon rainforest, what's dangerous about it, you need to keep your skin covered. So that means putting on like a jacket or something, maybe long sleeve, because I know it's like raining and everything, but the sun does get to your skin. You need maybe plastic bags around your shoes, because you don't want any part of your shoes, your feet getting wet, because then your skin might start to deteriorate over a period of time. And also bugs. And the last thing you should remember is the rules of 3. This means 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without a regulated body temperature, meaning your shelter, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. That's how long the human body can survive. The rules of 3. And also SPEAR, S-P-E-A-R, which means when you're in a survival situation or crisis, stop, relax, stop, plan, execute, assess, and reevaluate your situation. The next thing is going to be shelter. You need to, wherever you are when you wake up, that's going to be your point 0. And that is where you're going to locate everything and go back to your point until you can find yourself a shelter. So how you can remember where you are, you can tie a piece of cloth of wherever you are, and make sure you can always find your way back to point 0. Your location of your shelter, there's a few things that you need to look out for when you're trying to locate your shelter. Most people want to go on higher ground because then you're resistant to like flooding, and also less predators or higher ground. Also, you're able to see better the things around you. You're a lot safer. You can either find a shelter or build a shelter. Finding a shelter like a cave or maybe a fallen tree that already has like kind of like a hole in it to protect you from rain. Or you can build one, like a debris hut. This is a debris hut made of like palm leaves and mud. The next thing is water, how to find water. You should try to find a spring, because those are going to be the cleanest. If you can't find a spring, a running stream also works as well. And make sure that when you're building your shelter, you know exactly where that stream is, maybe a little close to it. The collection of dew. Early in the morning, what you can do is you can tie clothes around your ankles and walk around. And it'll collect dew and maybe rainwater, and then you can suck the water out of your clothes. Also, if you do happen to find any containers on your plane and bring them with you, you can collect rainwater because it does rain a lot in the rainforest. Also, purification. Of course, a lot of you already know this, but you can boil the water to get all the yucky stuff. Won't hurt you. So all the bacteria, kill all the bacteria. You can boil it. Okay. And starting a fire is also a really needed thing. The reasons you should contemplate whether to build a small or big fire: small fires last, big fires don't. But also, big fires attract attention, so if you're looking for like an SOS and smoke signals and all of that, the only bad thing about that is like you have to keep putting wood in to sustain that fire, and if you run out, then you're SOL. Starting a fire without modern means, like I said earlier, if you happen to find the modern means of starting a fire, a lighter, that's good, but if you don't, friction's always the best way to start a fire. Whether it's like rubbing two sticks together or the stones, the flint stones. Tinder, what you can use for tinder is going to be animal dung or bark off of a dead tree. Make sure the dead tree is standing there, because if it's on the ground, it gets all moisturized and covered with moss and all that. So, okay, a good rule for knowing how much wood to collect throughout the night, to keep your fire going throughout the night, is get about 4 times the amount of wood you think you need for the night, and then you'll be good. Okay, and the last thing is going to be food. You can last 3 weeks without food, like I said, and you can eat a lot of unconventional things. Bugs are really nutritious, worms, insects. If you're by the stream, you can catch fish, or minnows. You can actually eat the minnows whole. Don't hoard dead animals, because this attracts other animals, bad animals, like predatorial animals, and that's bad. Also, it attracts a lot of bugs, and it's a habitat for diseases and maggots and all of that. So if you're going to eat dead animals, you should probably eat it that day. Also, a lot of fruit is abundant in the rainforest, so you can look for things that you know about. Don't eat anything that you don't know what it is. There's a taste test to when you're eating bugs or fruit or plants. Put it in your mouth, chew it up, and spit it back out immediately. And you wait 5 minutes. And if nothing happens, you don't feel sick, you don't feel dizzy, and if nothing's irritating your tongue or you don't feel funny, then it's okay to eat. But if any other thing happens, don't eat it. It's probably poisonous. Okay, so on top of knowing all of this basic survival, what you also have to know are what are the dangerous plants and animals in the Amazon rainforest.
So there are a lot of dangerous animals and plants, and the first one is the green anaconda. This is the largest snake in the world. They can grow 20 to 30 feet long, and they eat by constriction, and they can weigh up to 550 pounds. And the coolest thing about them, they can detach their jaw, and they can eat humans. People don't believe this, but they can, because they crush the shoulders, they turn them around, and they can swallow them. The reason there aren't a lot of reports of these attacks on all the animals I'm going to talk about is because people typically do not go into the rainforest down by the water. And can you go to the next slide, please? They are not venomous. They eat by constriction. And one of the coolest things about them is they sense their prey's body heat. So not only do they smell, not only do they see, but they can feel the heat, and that's how they attack. And these snakes are indigenous to South America. And okay, then there's jaguars. These are carnivore animals. They eat a lot of meat. They eat up to 87 species. Their camouflages stop them from, they work into their environment. And the way they eat is they crush the skulls of animals, of what they eat. They can attack humans too. And next are the black caimans. These are a type of crocodile. They're all black. They attack at night. They like to eat at night. They live near waters, rivers, streams. They will attack humans, and with their mouth, they are not swallowers in church. They pull and they swallow things whole. So they will drown humans. They'll pull you under. They'll save you for later, and they'll go back and attack you. And they also, their color is camouflage for their night hunting. And then you have your frogs. These are called poison dart frogs. While they're pretty cool looking, they can get people very high and kill you. They are toxic. They eat toxic plants, and then what they do is they secrete it through their body. So if you were to touch it or get it absorbed through your skin, it can kill you. And people that are indigenous to this area will put their bodies on arrows and use them to kill other animals because they will instantly kill them. And then you have two types of plants. The curare plant, same thing. This is very toxic in the blood, but not by eating. So the people use these for arrows, also to hunt their food. And if it goes into your skin, it can cause asphyxiation and paralyze you. And then, yes. And then, no, the next one. Okay, and then you have angel's trumpet. This can induce visionary dreams and hallucinogens, and in it is something called alkaloids. These are poisonous to people. You might be asking, why would I have to worry about eating plants? Why would I have to worry about these things? Well, when you're dehydrated and when you're not feeling well, the sun's got you, you've got sunburn, you might eat stuff that's around you. If you can't find animals, you can't find this, you might try and put these in your mouth, and these are the effects of them. Also with the animals, they're found down by the waters. So if you're down by the water, which people go to water to find civilization when they need rescue, you got to be careful of these animals. And in addition to the animals and plants, you have to worry about your mental health and your physical health.
Your mental health and your physical health. These are the top 4 things you need to focus on health-wise in general. You need to make sure your health care before and after the crash. You need to watch out for diseases. You need to watch out for the heat. And you need to watch out for your own mental, psychological reasons. Alright, cannot stress enough that after you crash, you need to relax. Panic is one of the things that just, it takes all the energy out of you, and it makes you worry, and it makes things 10 times harder. You find yourself getting tired easier, quicker. Have to relax. If you can go through the wreckage and find a first aid kit, make sure you treat all the wounds you can. You don't want to be walking around in these kind of indigenous places with cuts left open or pretty much anything. You don't want animals smelling your blood. You don't want bugs getting into anything. And of course, gather food you recognize. If you don't recognize it, don't eat it. Most likely it's poisonous. If you see, those blueberries, take the blueberries. If you don't know the red, pink berries next to it, don't even bother. And of course, diseases and they tell you before you get on the plane, you need this vaccination for whatever tropical desert, wherever you seem to be going. Take their advice to heart. Something as simple as a tetanus shot can be life or death for you. One of the biggest transmitted diseases in the rainforest is malaria. Malaria comes from ticks, fleas, mosquitoes, little bugs, and it is deadly. There is no real research on how you can treat it on your own. So if you can go back into that wreckage and find some bug begone or something, I would advise carrying it around with you. And of course, be very aware of the sun. You may think, oh, I tan easily. Sometimes when you're in the sun, as long as you go from something as simple as a sunburn to 2nd to 3rd degree burns. Psychological effects. Now, from what I read, a lot of people go through the 5 stages of grief, which is denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. After you crash, like I said, keep calm. Most people are first in denial. This is a dream. This didn't happen to me. Why? anger. Then you get angry when you start realizing nobody's there for you. Why did I survive? Why was I put into this place? Start bargaining. A lot of people, if they're religious, they ask God, I'll go to church on Sunday if you get me out of this. You start freaking out. You start saying, I'll do this if this. Depression hits. You just lost a loved one, especially if you're on a trip with your mom or dad. People you don't even know. God knows there's bodies all around you. And then, of course, acceptance. You have to accept the fact that you're in the place you're in. You have to mentally tell yourself it's going to be okay. It's all mind over matter. You can't let things around you get to you. Most of your psychological effects in the rainforest come from dehydration. So get that water, get as much as you can of it. Like Raven said, 3 days. You can only go 3 days without it. What a lot of people get, from not having water, after a few days, they start noticing things that aren't there. A tree can look like a person. A plant can look like a house. Water is important. And one of the biggest ways you can get water is through the weather.
All right. And with the weather, there's the weather, the climate, the landforms, and disasters that can happen in the rainforest. And the weather is from 50 degrees to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And 90 degrees is how hot it can get in the daytime, while 50 degrees is like at night. But with all the humidity there, it actually is higher than 90 degrees, like it'll be 96. So when you're not like expecting it to be so hot, you'll get dehydrated and start running low and start hallucinating. Well, at night, when it gets down to 50 or even lower because of the humidity, you'll start seeing like it'll get cold and you need to cover up and wear like extra clothes you have that you can gather from the luggage from the wreck. And then since we are going there in December on a trip to get out of the cold weather here and go down to the hot weather, it is from October to May, and it rains pretty much every day. And the rain, like if you're on a trail that you find, it will wash it out and you won't know where you are. So you gotta mark your territory of where you've been. So like if you do get lost, you can track yourself back to where your camp is, where your shelter is, where you got fire, where you can boil your water from all the rainwater that you've been capturing. And then the dense woods, even though you think it's dense and you're in the shade, like Samantha said, you will get sunburned because of the clouds and the sun goes right through it, and you actually get more sun and you will get more burnt because you don't think that's going to happen and you're not very cautious of it. And then when you are walking, you got to be aware of all the moss on the trees that have fallen down and they're slippery. And you got to make sure, like if you do slip, you got to like treat your wounds, and if you do break like a hand or something, you got to make a splint out of the like wood that you find and wrap a towel or something around it so you don't have to worry about going around not being able to use it, because you can still use it if you have a splint. It just might hurt a little bit more. But you got to be careful of watching your footing and where you're stepping to make sure you don't step on any animals or plants or not. And then there's the disasters that will happen. One of the most common ones is the extreme flooding, which does take out all the roads and the trails. And then there's the landslides, because the soil is so moist. You gotta make sure that if you do step on something down a cliff or something like that, like the rocks don't slip, or like an avalanche with snow, where like the whole thing moves and you're just going down like a 1,000-foot drop. And then sometimes, even though it is raining, there is forest fires. And you gotta make sure, like if you do see smoke or from your fire catches the trees on fire, you gotta make sure you can escape and where you should be headed to. And then there's the rare drought, because sometimes they do not get rain for so long, and you gotta make sure you have enough water just in case there is a drought and there's no more rivers or creeks near you. You gotta make sure you have enough water to hydrate yourself and keep going and keep motivated. And then there's the ways of surviving and how to get out of the rainforest.
So, like you guys were hearing from a lot of group members. The most important thing when you're in the rainforest to keep is your mind. All you have is your mind, your soul, your body. That's what you have to protect at all times. And honestly, the most important thing to remember is the constant mindset of watching out for yourself and your group members. So, like you can see on the slide, don't let emotions affect decision making. These things shouldn't account for what's going on around you in terms of your decision making at all times. You should be able to, on all aspects of being in the rainforest, understand what you have to do, because it's really fairly simple. Just find water, find food, find shelter, protect yourself. It's just that easy. All you have to do is just be prepared and keep your head cool, keep your cool head in the bottom. Staying composed, like I said, from the rest of our group members of what we talked about, you need to watch out for dangerous animals, plants, environmental factors, and number one, obviously locate food and water and safety. Now, what you're going to want to do to start off with is the most probably important thing when you get there is find high ground. It can offer protection, it can offer you more efficient planning of your escape, as well as it can allow for SOS signals once you get there, or once you crash into the rainforest or wherever you end up in the situation you're in. You're able to at least find some way to contact civilization if there was a plane or something to fly over, just in case. And then obviously, you're going to be able to see the sky. That's important because if anybody does know how to locate where you are or find at least what direction you're in, you're able to see that through the stars. So that's probably the most important thing to do when you get there, right? And then from the high ground, you're going to want to at least be able to get a point of view where you are, from the sky if you can. Find running water, vital for survival, and don't forget to boil, obviously, like we talked about. At least if you can find water, it's always going to run downstream to the coast. That's where it's going to meet up with the larger bodies of water and the water level here in our climate. So the downstream water, as you can see, will lead to gradual decrease in slope and delta formation, which has an abundance of food, other animals and plants that you can eat, harvest, whatever you need to do to find more natural resources and food to survive, and that will eventually lead to civilization on the planet. And you never know. For what we talked about today, most survivors never think that they would be put in the situation that they're in. I mean, what would you do if you were put in that situation tomorrow? You wouldn't expect to be, but sometimes that's just what happens. And then, as you can see, there was a young girl, her name was Julian. She was 17, and she was the only survivor in a plane crash and spent 11 days in the rainforest by herself. She survived because she knew what to do and her parents had taught her. And that just comes with understanding how to survive in the rainforest.
Going out a little more about Julianne, when she was on a trip with her mom forgot exactly where, but she didn't know that any of this was going to happen. Everything her dad taught her was how to survive in this particular climate. She took everything that he took into heart. It took her 11 days to get out of there. I was very shocked when I read this. She talked about her psychological trouble. She talked about her pretty much, like I said, her grief, her denial, her anger. She showed strength. If you guys want to read it, you just look up her name. It's a great story. But should you ever need to know any of this, should this ever happen to you, just remember everything. Remember, keep calm, rules of 3, watch out for your plants and animals, keep care of your health, watch out for treacherous rain and weather, and make sure you know how to SOS. Thank you very much.